Anita, how's your mental health?
Questionable at all times. You know this.
Yeah, how's the mental health of your children?
Also a little bit tricky. Can I tell you my experience in trying to find therapists for myself and my kids, Mel?
Yes, please.
Okay, this is how it goes. You ask around your friends and your family for a referral for somebody who's nearby. You finally find somebody who sounds like they might work for your family. You give them a call and you find out that A, they're not accepting new patients, or B, they have a huge wait list. So you start over again and you ask people if they know anybody who would be a good therapist and a good fit. Finally, you find one, you go and you meet with them, and you figure out that you don't actually like them that much. But it's been so much work to find somebody who you can go to in your area that you're kind of stuck with them. Well, do you have any ideas for how to get around this?
I do because guess what? I've actually had some therapists that I have found on my own, which involves what you're saying. Sometimes I remember one time I was like 3 hours in the bathtub on my phone looking
Yeah.
through websites. I was such a prune at the end. But I have also had the experience with working with BetterHelp. And it was like, I don't want to say too good to be true, but because it is true, but it's like amazing because I was matched with my therapist within 24 hours.
And you didn't have to go through all of that other ridiculous process of trying to find somebody. And here's the cool thing too, is if that person didn't work out for you, you can just switch and say, and it's not like you're committing to another years long search for somebody who you're going to jive with.
It's true. And I lucked out, or maybe just BetterHelp is really good at matching people together because I never had to change my therapist. I loved her. Perfect fit for me. And I know that some of our friends have used BetterHelp and they've had to change therapists, and boom, same day, you can change.
Easy peasy.
You can ghost your therapist. Get a new one.
I love this idea. BetterHelp is one of our sponsors. If you use our promo code trybetterhelp.com/WWDN, you get 10% off your first month, and we totally recommend it.
Yes, get some therapy. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN. Anita, the mayhem has already begun.
Yes, it has. Hi, Melba Toast.
That was so brilliant. I don't even have one. My brain's too swimmy today. Great one, Anita.
I love that your brain is swimmy. That's a great description of
Yeah.
when you're like floating. Yeah, the chaos is here. It's Christmas time. It's crazy town. Let's do it.
I'm in.
Okay. So, you tell me that you've been playing video games for like 27 hours straight.
It's true.
Yeah. You've had kind of a crazy week.
It's also true.
I can't even remember what happened this week.
Would you like to hear about it?
For sure.
Okay. Now, I am sharing part of the story with permission from my sister, who is one of the main players in this story. Hey, guys, did you know that it's 2020 and there's a pandemic and everybody's legit going crazy in the head?
Yes, I had heard that.
Well, on Monday, my sister was not doing very well. She was struggling with some mental things, and she informed me. Now, for those of you who do not want to hear the story, you should skip ahead 30 seconds because it's going to talk about dark things. So go ahead and skip if you need to. So she walked in and informed me that she was suicidal. And I was like, okay, not today.
No, you're like unacceptable. I reject your offer.
I understand that you feel this way. However, we are not going to have an outcome of that today. If I help you get on the National Suicide Hotline, are you willing to talk to them? Yes. So, long story short, that happened and she was able to be admitted to get some psychiatric help. And she is doing better, thankfully. And she got home on Friday right as I was taking one of my dogs to the dog ICU because he was having seizures and not able to walk. So I was at the dog emergency vet. So basically, it's just been a stressful week with actual life and death situations for both human and person. And
so
there's that. And I'm tired.
What did you end up figuring out with Finn, the dog?
Okay, the dog This is so ridiculous. He got into moldy birdseed, which I didn't even know was in the yard. And apparently mold is very, very, very toxic for dogs. And the reason why he was not able to move his feet and whatever, I was going to say feet and hands, but
I know, but what do dogs have?
I
like,
don't know.
They just have feet?
I guess.
Paws? I think they're called paws.
Paws. Because he was in so much pain, and that's why. So I thought he had a neurological issue and was freaking out. Texting you, Anita. Remember this?
Yeah.
So anyway, so he spent a night in the dog ICU. He even had a night nurse. It was so great. They let me call at any time. And then with my sister, she was in the hospital for about 4 to 5 days and was making progress.
She also had a night nurse.
She totally did. Yeah. And if any of you are caught up on the podcast, you know that my bandmate succumbed to suicide like 2 weeks ago. So this has been a theme. So the reason why my sister said it was okay to share is because she's really into helping everybody realize that it's okay to have issues mentally, and she just wants everybody to know that if you're struggling, there's help. So I asked her about it today. I'm like, we usually get together and we blah blah about stuff. Do you want me to not say anything?
This is kind of like a huge part of my week this week.
Yeah, I'm like, this was, and because it was like life and death. It's not just like, oh yeah, here's my sister.
I ate a tortilla.
Yeah, here's my sister. Yeah, she's just in the hospital because she wanted to die. It was like every single day was full of trauma and scary things. And then as soon as she was going to come home, then the dog thing happened, which I know for some that sounds so ridiculous. But for me, it's like all I have. My husband's dead and I don't have kids. And so I put all my effort into my dog staying alive. So
are you just like this? Why would you eat birdseed?
Yeah.
Dumb Finn?
Yeah. Yes.
What the heck?
It's so weird because he never gets into anything. And now I guess he does. So it was so strange.
And he's like, oh, this tastes really gross. It's moldy. I'll just keep eating this whole bag.
Nom nom. Yeah, did you know there's a pet poison control and you can get a case number from them?
I do now.
Yeah, so
do you know how many times I call human poison control?
Well, they don't charge you a $60 fee, I guess.
They do at pet poison control?
Yeah, because you have to get a case number and then give your vet the case number so they can communicate. But they were very nice. I'm very happy with the medical care that everybody in my life this week received. And now my medical care is playing Nintendo because I just feel like my brain cannot really handle much more because it was so stressful.
I think I've called poison control at least 4 times this year. And they're really nice to you. Yeah. They don't say why the hell would your kid do that? And that's what I'm thinking. Just like with Finn, why would you do that? Anyway.
It made me feel better as a dog owner. Does it make you feel better as a parent?
When they don't actually treat you like you're a stupid person? Yes, for sure. When I'm like, my son hit a battery with a hammer and the battery squirted into his eye.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just I cannot explain why somebody would do that.
I have a thought, Anita.
What?
We've both had great experiences with the people on the other end of poison control. Maybe they should switch professions and do every job ever, like politics, mental health professionals.
Maybe.
They know how to treat people.
I kind of think that they're like college students, though, that just follow the script. And they're trained not to be like, well, that's a weird thing to do. Why would he do that? Why weren't you watching him? Where did he get the hammer? Where did he get the battery? None of that.
I think with the pet poison control, it does consist of veterinarians on their staff as well, so it might be different. But, guess what else is happening tomorrow?
What?
It's my anniversary with Scott.
Oh, gosh.
So
yeah.
I've decided something this year.
You have?
Yeah, because it's my 5-year. Isn't that a notable thing?
Yes.
And I looked it up. You know that thing where you're supposed to give your person presents?
Yeah, and they're like a special, like the aluminum anniversary.
Yes.
The ivory anniversary. Yeah.
The paper anniversary. I would like a taco anniversary, personally.
Okay, did you know that if you're married for 80 years, because my grandparents were married for almost 80 years, then the year mark is unicorn. Not really. I totally just made that up.
Don't do that to me. I'm in a compromised mental state. I believe everything.
I think we really did look it up once, and it's because nobody's married for 80 years, but they were.
That's amazing. Well, guess what my plan is, Anita?
What is your plan?
Scott's dead. Did you know this? So
I'd heard.
I'm just going to give you whatever my 5-year present is. And I think it is wood this year. So what do you want? A ping pong paddle? A train whistle?
Not a train whistle. Not a train whistle.
A bookshelf? Just one.
Something that's not a weapon or doesn't make a loud noise.
A tree?
Yeah, actually, I do want to plant a tree, but I don't think like the middle of December is the greatest time to plant a tree.
It's not.
Do you?
I don't know. Don't ask me questions.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I can't even remember my 5th anniversary.
Because it was so long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never got one.
I was like 22 years old. I know.
Whoa.
Dang, Scott.
I know, but now you're my person, so you get all the prizes.
Have you noticed how so many people in our Widow Wives Club have dead Scots?
Yes. It is like a curse. Guys,
don't name your children Scott.
And don't marry somebody named Scott because they'll die.
They all die. Yeah. That's so weird.
No offense to Scots and people that have named it. You know.
And to all the dead Scots. It's just like, why? That's so weird. So
Anita, I just want to say thank you for bringing a drink to my house while I was in the ER with my sister. Because I got it later.
You're welcome.
Thanks for being a friend.
I brought it to you and I handed it to your mom. And then I looked her in the eyes and I said, Sylvia Shore, don't you dare drink this.
Sometimes we assume that unless we had a huge life insurance payout, we don't really need to know anything about investments or even finances. But guess what? A little knowledge of finances is critical for all of us. Maybe your partner was in charge of that stuff, and now you find yourself making all the decisions. Maybe you're mad about that. Maybe I am. Nicole from the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast is here to help. She tackles financial literacy by telling the stories of women and widows and finance experts, and shares the lessons they've learned as certified financial planners. Whether you know a lot and feel confident in your financial decisions or feel unsure about all of that stuff, there is more to learn. Listen and subscribe to the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast on all podcast platforms. This ad was paid for by Rockhouse Financial, an SEC registered investment advisor.
And she's like, I would never. It's carbonation, and I don't like carbonation.
She was like, this is the sugar of the devil or something. No, but it wasn't, because it was all sugar-free.
Yeah, it's aspartame of the devil.
Yes, it says aspartame of the devil.
So, Anita, you know, my week was just kind of weird like that. What was your week like?
I don't know. I can't even remember. I get to the end of the week, and I'm like, what just happened? Did stuff happen? This is what I do know. It's Christmas. I have 4 kids. I have parents. I have in-laws. I have people to buy presents for. So I just keep buying stuff. And then it comes to my house and I open it up and I'm like, I don't even know. This is so weird. It's such a mishmash. We're going to have Christmas morning. It's going to be like one kid gets 11 presents and then I'm going to have forgotten one kid entirely. And that won't go over well. But I bought a present for one kid and it came to the house and I opened it and I had accidentally ordered 2 of that present, and I'm like, no, I didn't, but yes, I did. I went back and looked. So now I have 2 of that I need to return 1 of, and I just hope that it all comes together in the end, and everybody gets something.
Yeah, and if not, call me, text me that morning. I'll figure
the
some
only
stuff
place
out.
that's open, I know this from experience, is Walgreens.
Oh, I actually love Walgreens.
We just had a little COVID scare, though, so I was pretty sure we were going to be in quarantine for Christmas. But then it turns out it's fine. This I for sure know has been going on this week, is that we are one of my kids is having panic attacks, which has never happened to me in the past. I have no knowledge. I have nothing in my toolbox to deal with this kind of thing. And it's been really difficult because we're almost to the point of not functioning very well. Like I had to go to school and pick her up from school. There was a panic attack on the junior high floor and, you know, like every place we go. And then I have lots of people who want to give me their input on what to do about them, but all of it seems to be, I'm like, no, right now, I just need it solved right now. That's how I feel. You know, like, give me like a switch that we can flip, or like I'll hit her over the head with a frying pan. Because honestly, sometimes I do just feel like you need to like snap them out of it somehow. So I kind of want to just like try slapping her in the face, but
Like a
I've
shock.
heard that's not, yeah, I've heard that's not good. They frown upon you doing that. So anyway, yeah, I don't, it's been a weird thing. And she thinks she's having a heart attack.
Oh, gosh.
And then that was like the first of them. And then she started having panic attacks about having panic attacks. Like, she's so nervous she's going to have a panic attack that she has a panic attack. So I'm like, this is a spiraling weird
It doesn't help
thing.
that her dad died from a heart thing either.
Yes. No, I do not think it is. And, you know, she's having all these dietary problems. And I think that is not helping either, because she gets like heartburn and anyway. But on the flip side, because her dad died of a heart thing, all of the kids got a heart screening. So I can be like, we know your heart is normal in structure, right? But that apparently doesn't help people that much when they're having a panic attack. When you say to them, your aortic structure is normal.
But you know what, Anita? Great job being a medical professional. You're very, very to the point.
But this is such a different animal, because I'm like, you are fine. You know, there is nothing wrong with you. Why is this happening? Stop it. That's how I feel. Which is not very nice. It's not very sympathetic.
I know. It's hard when it's not you going through the thing. Because it's like,
Because
well,
you're
of
just
course,
like, what is...
Yeah, it's like when you're going through the thing, you're like, I need all the stuff and all the help and all the time and all the care. And then someone else goes through it and it's like, okay, come on.
Yes.
I feel you.
Yes.
And then I always think, like, what's wrong with me? Every day for me is like trying to improve and to be kinder. And then sometimes I'll hear those voices in my head. I'm like, I'm such a jerk. Stop.
Well, I decided, I was like, okay, you've been going to therapy for almost 2 years. We need to find you a new therapist, because if you don't have tools to deal with this by now, then I don't know what you guys have been doing. But so then I told her, and then she had a panic attack.
Oh no, Anita.
I know.
I have a question.
What?
I know everybody's different. Would your kid benefit from exercise like you do, or is it just too like a weird zone for her right now?
I think she would, for sure. But she's kind of at that age now where I can't be like, you should do this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I can say, hey, I think this would be a good idea, but we have a ton of stuff right now to do too. I'm like, you're falling behind on schoolwork, and, you know, so right now it's just like, can you just function in a really baseline level? And so today she actually started to have, like, you know, you can see it coming. And we went outside and we went for a walk. And that was really good. Like, it was cold outside. There was just like a lot of sensations, and that helped a lot. I do think that physical activity would really help, like, just to get that outlet. So, I mean, we're looking at a lot of things right now, but they all take time. So how do you get through until you figure out what's going to work, and what techniques and what strategies, and how to stop it before it becomes a full-blown, like, freak out fest.
I know how. You just play Nintendo. Ignore everything.
Yeah, that maybe, but they keep happening, and, like, at times when I wouldn't suspect they're going to happen. So
it's so tricky. You guys, this death stuff is hard.
I know, and I said to you, I was texting Mel about it, and I was like, I have 2 questions in my mind. The first question is number 1, would this even be happening if Jason hadn't died? Like, it's so hard to know what the trajectory would have been had our life just stayed quote-unquote normal. If she still would have turned into a teenager and still been dealing with, you know, teenager-y stuff. And maybe she would have been predisposed to this anyway. And then my question is, okay, assuming that it's not just because Jason died, what would his response to this have been? Would he have just been like, what the heck, like, stop? You know, or if he would have been, you know, I don't know, good about it, or anyway. I just keep thinking that over and over.
Have you come to any conclusions with those thoughts?
honestly, I don't think we would be where we are if Jason hadn't died. That's how I really feel, because she's my oldest. She has taken so much of the stress because she feels this need to hold it together, the family together, when I'm not holding it together.
Oh, man.
So when the boys are annoying me or being crazy, like, she feels like she needs to come up and be the parent and stop annoying mom. Like, mom's gonna lose it. Mom's gonna freak out. Mom's gonna have to leave to a, padded room somewhere. And then she feels responsible for it. And then I'm like, you're not you're not in charge. Go away. But then she still feels this responsibility to hold things together when I'm not able to. And that's not really a normal thing for a 12, 13-year-old to have to do. So I just think she's got a lot of stress that she wouldn't have had if we still had two parents. So, and I'm sure she would have had teenager stupid stuff, but I don't think it would be to this point.
No, that's a lot. But you know what the good news about husbands are? You can always just go find another one. So what's your problem? I mean, everybody's been telling us that since our people have died.
So Mel and I went to, a little while ago, we went together to a beautification salon. I'll call it that. And we were sitting there chatting with the lady there. And I was like, you just have to know how we know each other. And we told her, that we were widow wives and our husbands were dead. And the first thing she said was, "Are you dating?" And I was like, I thought she meant each other. And I was like, no, it's just like a funny name. And then I don't know, do you think she meant that?
I don't know, because I thought she meant the other, but then I did a double take and thought she meant the first thing.
Yes. And then we're like, no, we're not dating anybody. And then she said, well, how long? I mean, has it just recently happened? And then that's another tricky question. I'm like, well, define recent.
We told her, well, for us, it's recent, but for a normal person, it seems like a long time ago. 3 years.
Yeah. And then she was like the best, because then she said the next words out of her mouth were, "You're so strong." I was like, lady.
What if she's listening?
It's fine, because it's not like she meant to do, but she said all of the funniest things right in a row. And I was like, you have been talking to us for 6 minutes and you get to decide whether or not we're strong. I'm like, no, you don't know. It was pretty funny.
It was. She did tell us she was going to listen to our podcast. So if she's listening, hi, new friend.
And we're not mad. It's just funny.
We've gotten quite a few recommendations from lots of people that are wondering about how to help children through grief. And just for those of you who are interested, have been working on that actually for a long time. And it's hard to find people that will come and talk to us. So we're working on it. We're sorry that we don't have anything yet, but
if you've got somebody that you know of, drop us an email, because what we're finding is that most people also don't know. So
yeah, everyone's like, what? And
all the parents are like, yeah, I don't know. We're just muddling. We're just figuring this out. So yeah, if you've got like an expert, yeah, let us know. Yeah,
if you have someone that we have some calls out, but we haven't heard back yet. So yeah, if give people our email, widowwedonow@gmail.com, and we would be happy to consider them. Cause it sounds like all y'all need some help with your kids.
Yes. And would this be a good time to remind people about our widow hang?
Yeah, I'm excited for our widow
holiday hang on Saturday.
Yeah.
We have RSVPs coming in. Make sure you RSVP and we will send you the Zoom link. We're not just putting the Zoom link out because we don't want randos.
We hate scammers and psychos, and we just can't.
RSVP, it's going to be super low-key, casual, so no pressure.
Not long and drawn out, but fun.
You can come, you can go, whatevs. So make sure you RSVP, and we'd love to see you this weekend to wish you happy holidays.
And if you are listening to us right now after December 19th, I'm sorry you've missed it.
Go back in time in your DeLorean, then you'll be able to join us again. It's time to shout out our patrons.
Woohoo!
We'll start with our dead husbands. First we have Katie Kuntz
and David Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you to our widow wife and widow besties. We have Karen Cornejo.
Lori Farrington.
Rachel Barbosa. Oh.
Ooh, her episode is today.
Yes.
Emily Thornton.
Ileana Bell.
The Fancy Lady.
Anna Tracy.
Jamie Aliota.
Gabe Lozano.
Christina Scambato.
Aaron Posick.
Shannon Helm.
Jenny Barrow.
Jackie Kennedy Jr.
Okay. Christine Anderson.
Marjorie Lewis.
Diana Becker.
Black Wendy.
Sarah Morris.
Ashley Hahn.
Kara Scara.
Jenny Taylor.
My mommy.
And Sylvia Shore that does not drink carbonation. Thanks, Mom.
Good. She didn't drink your drink.
Nope.
Thank you guys so much for supporting us. It really means a lot and helps us to be able to keep the podcast going. If you haven't joined our Patreon, consider checking it out. It's patreon.com/WWDN. And as always, check out the Widow Wives Club if you're a widow or widower, and check out our Facebook page if you are just a good person who is not a widow or widower.
All right, up next is a ray of sunshine who's been through lots of crazy things, but has the best attitude.
And is a cutie pie.
And we love her, and it's going to be a party at her house next time we can actually go somewhere. So,
here we go.
Coming up, Rachel Barbosa.
I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
We're just two young widows getting ready for Christmas and anniversaries, and we're trying to figure out what do we do now.
I am very wise and knowledgeable. I would like to point that out.
I'm not disagreeing all the way.
Thank you. Okay, so Anita, we have an amazing guest today. And this next guest has been one of our listeners for a while. And just in the last week or so, she had a very fancy article posted about her. So I know a little bit more about her than you do.
She's a mystery to me.
She's very cool, and we have been wanting to interview her for a while. So welcome to the podcast, Rachel Barbosa.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
Rachel, where are you?
I am in Lake Arrowhead right now.
Where is that?
Lake Arrowhead, California.
Okay.
It is in the sort of close mountains of Southern California in the LA. It's in San Bernardino County, which is near LA County. And I don't live here. I live here part-time. I went crazy and bought a cabin up here like the month after my hubby passed. And that's a whole story that I'm sure I'll probably touch upon.
Widow Wives Retreat at your place.
Yes. Absolutely.
That's amazing. How's the COVID situation in your neck of the woods?
So LA County has over 11 million people that live.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 11 million cases, and I was going to be like, whoa.
So with that population, it is very difficult for the county to achieve the type of numbers. There's some sort of formula the Department of Public Health has applied that we must meet the amount of beds that are available, compared to the amount of cases that are out there. And LA County is just kind of having a difficult time getting a hold of everything because we're so populated. So other counties in our surrounding area, like Orange County, San Bernardino County, Ventura County, they are able to maybe open up a little bit faster because they don't face the same issues that LA County has.
So is that why you were like, I'm going to my cabin?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to hang out with the moose.
Yeah, oh my gosh,
and the
it's funny
squirrels.
You say that. I have a room that I just decorated. Now I'm making like themed rooms. So I just did a moose room. And and it's just cheesy.
I run into moose a lot. It's one of my talents.
While you're running?
You should send me a picture. Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah.
It's not awesome. It's like, please don't kill me, moose. But they never have. So that's cool.
Is the area you're in right now, Rachel, is that by Big Bear? Is it that kind of area?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's
so
pretty there.
It's a town closer to where I live. It's about an hour away from where I live down the mountain. And Big Bear's another 45 minutes away in the same direction.
Can we just pause a second?
Okay.
Rachel's lipstick is amazing. I'm so proud of it.
I know. She looks so great. And look at us. Whoa.
I want you to know,
I have
on mascara for the first time in 4 days.
leggings and tennis shoes on. I had to get all dolled up. It's the Maybelline lip stain, and it's awesome, and it lasts all day long.
I don't think I could even pull it off, though. I think I would look like a clown if I tried it.
They have different shades.
Okay, Rachel, we've gone around in circles and gotten nowhere. So let's get somewhere, shall we?
That article that was posted about you had some interesting information that I think is relevant to resilience and probably to where you are today. And of course, you're a widow because you're on this podcast. But yeah, start back wherever you would like to start back and kind of go through it. And then we'll get to the death stuff. And then you know how it goes. We're all over.
Well, I always kind of wonder why my story is, out there and why anyone would want to hear it or write about it or cover it, But I think that the people that I want to reach are the people that had similar backgrounds like me, who perhaps can have some hope and inspiration to overcome a lot of challenges. Like, I was a poor kid, grew up in the welfare office. My mother was a single mother of 4, and we were homeless at one time. And a church family took us in, and we lived with them in their family room for almost a year. And that family, I'm still very close to. I consider the parents like my uncle and aunt. Their daughter is my best friend, and we're still very, very close. So, then going through childhood, living off of every, any government assistance available. My mother, she has some mental illness that perhaps wasn't really diagnosed back in the day. And so all she knew was survival mode. And I think just overcoming those challenges and being able to play in sports perhaps, and being competitive, I have this like drive to win. I always need to win in the situation I'm in. So my approach to challenges might be a little different from others. I have a very fast pace, which my grieving pace is even fast, and sometimes I think, why am I where I'm at today, where other women or, widows who've gone through this, perhaps they're still not in a comfortable space of moving forward, but I think it's just I've always been that fast-paced problem solver. And, then I had 2 kids in high school. I was a teen mom and graduated high school with 2 kids, which is a little crazy. And got married my senior year and got divorced right after high school and moved back home and was just a struggling young single mom. But I had a part-time job, a full-time job. I was in college. I was volunteering in the community. I worked on political campaigns, and I established a little bit of a reputation of just being a fix-it, go-getter person. And I worked for 2 very prominent elected officials here in LA County. They're called county board supervisors, and one of the electeds actually served in President Obama's cabinet as a Secretary of Labor. The other elected official was a state senator and assembly member, and now he's going to be serving. He just won his election to serve in the LA City Council. So I've just been involved in government and politics for a while, and now I actually am a city manager for a city in LA County, and it's a position that I earned it in a sort of non-traditional, unconventional way of getting there. A lot of my colleagues have worked for decades coming up through the local city system, achieving that. And I was able to, I think, just, prove myself in ways that helped maybe, launch my success. So I get to be like a CEO of a city, and it's awesome because it's a small city, so we contract everything. We don't have our own police department or fire department. So it's challenging, but it's just so rewarding as well. And I had just gotten the job when everything, went to crap, when my hubby died. So
Okay, so you grew up, you had to fight your whole life
yes,
to just have the normal life experience that
Yeah.
we all just
To stay alive.
yeah, we just all like assume happens for everybody. When did you get married? We skipped that part, didn't we?
yeah.
I mean,
Well, you got married again, right? Because you married in high school. You were
Right.
married, right? And
Yeah.
then divorced.
And I mean
Okay.
that marriage I don't even really count, The only thing that counts is I had a daughter from that marriage. So that's that. But
okay, wait, you got married in high school?
yes.
Before or after your first baby?
During Christmas break, I was pregnant with my second daughter. And actually the first daughter I had my sophomore year when I was 16, and her father, who I'm still very close to, he texted me and said, "Oh, I read your article and you didn't give me any recognition." He was just joking. No, but I'm very close to him and his wife, and so I had my daughter. Then I got pregnant again with my second daughter, and I thought, okay, this has to be it. And we got married my senior year while I was in Christmas break. So I came back to school after Christmas break, and I changed my last name right away because I was really proud of it. And then
you're in high school and you think
Yeah.
that you know like everything,
Exactly.
and then
Exactly.
you get older and you're like, boy, I was stupid.
Yeah, exactly. So I struggled for a few years, of course, being a young single mother, late teens into early 20s. But as I mentioned, I was volunteering in the community and on political campaigns.
Wait, can I just say I'm so impressed that you graduated and had 2 kids.
Yeah.
That's
And
amazing.
I was in honors classes. What?
You're just a high achiever. You're like, I'm going to pack all of life in before
Exactly.
I'm 18.
Yeah.
That's all.
But of course, I mean, being a sort of survivalist, and trying to make something of my life at that time, it results in maybe a little neglect perhaps of my own children, and just kind of like babysitters and grandma. And so now my daughters are in their late 20s, and it's my fault for everything that they're going through. And they're both mothers, by the way. So it has its pluses and minuses. I mean, but we have awesome relationships, and I'm very proud of them. So they were little, and I was volunteering, and I was trying to bring more resources to a neglected community in South Los Angeles. And I did that with a group of friends who were all professionals in different industries. We came together, we created this 6-week program where we were going to have this little neighborhood college, is what we called it. And one of the workshops focused on knowing their local law enforcement station. And the deputy at the time, who was like the nice community deputy, who was going to be the go-to guy, he came on board, and we co-chaired his workshop that day. And we were very friendly, and just sort of had a lot in common. We found out we were way out in South LA, and 30 plus miles north, we actually lived within about 2 miles of each other. So, he was newly single and I was single. And so the following year we started dating, and his name's Ernie. And so Ernie was a deputy in the LA County Sheriff's Department, and we merged our families. He also had 2 children who were about the same ages as my daughters. And we settled in the community, in the city where he lived. And we got married, and we just were crazy in love and faced all the challenges of a blended family. We both acknowledged and recognized that our children were close with their other parents. And so we had always been very open with their other parents too. So we just had this really cool big blended family. And it just shaped us, youth sports, and community involvement and activism. And his career, he grew in his career, I grew in mine, and he promoted to sergeant and was a sergeant for the department, I'd say probably the last 10 years of his career. He was on the department total of almost 30 years. And we just had the perfect life, I mean, the first 10 years were really challenging and rough, but then the next, 8 years were just like perfect.
Okay, I just want to say, no, they weren't. I'm listening to you and I'm like, were not perfect, but you guys were rock stars because you took a situation that was challenging and you came out of it saying it was perfect, which says a lot about you, actually, more than it says about the situation.
Well, we both came from pretty humble beginnings. He lost his mother when he was 7, and that defined him with everything he did throughout life. And I think of your children, Anita, and how they're going to grow with the loss of their father. And that's going to be very impactful, but that will probably define who they become as adults. And because you're strong and because you're aware of, all of these different feelings and emotions, and you have so much support, they're going to be okay. They're going to be
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no, they are going to be awesome, in fact.
Except for I have one that keeps trying to kill our fish. So.
He'll be a veterinarian. He's just experimenting.
Yeah.
He poured chocolate milk into the fish bowl last
because
week.
he wanted to see if they liked it. If he likes chocolate milk, they may like chocolate milk.
I guess.
He just wants to heal the fish.
He wants to make them happy.
Ever since you were little, you had a lot of obstacles to work through, and your resilience was amazing. Like, as we have heard already, all those things leading up. And then you met Ernie. And then, of course, every marriage has its challenges. And then you ended up coming through the other side. And you're like, it was amazing. So did you feel like, yes, I've made it? Look at my life that was so crazy. And now I'm here with Ernie. And
oh, yeah.
Cool.
The first 10 years were crazy of our marriage. Of course. Super challenging, back and forth. I mean, and it was almost like when we hit that 10-year mark, it just worked. Everything worked. And of course I was naggy, and of course he was mean, but those were just things that, couples deal with. And, I have a short-term memory anyway, so I was always forgiving, and, he too. I mean, we were just, I would just say that, the last half of our marriage, we daily acknowledged how blessed we were and how we should appreciate our happiness. And it was just incredible, and I can't describe how perfect of a marriage that we had. We were both very happy. We had a few grandchildren, and he was preparing for retirement. So he had served this 30-year career, sacrificing his life every day, putting on his uniform and going out to work, and really getting he was just so special, even in his job. Everyone loved him. His subordinates loved him. The secretaries, his bosses, everyone just loved him. He was fun. He was funny. He was cool. But he had a drinking problem. And he, I think, just self-medicated, for many, 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 many years. And I'm not an ultimatum type of person, so we discussed his alcoholism a lot, but it was manageable because he always turned out to be nicer and more giving. So I actually reaped some of the benefits on the other end. But it was just him. It was just him. And a little over a year ago, on June 30th, we had some friends over. It was the first real warm day of the summer. So we were in the pool all weekend. And of course we were drinking. And that Sunday he went into the house a little early And I went looking for him, and he said, "Oh, I just have a stomach ache and I don't really feel well." I said, "Okay, well, do you need anything?" "No, I'm good." Went out, hung out with our friends another couple hours. They were leaving, came back in. "Hey, they're leaving. You should probably go say bye." Okay. So he got up, went and said bye, came back in, and he asked me to get him Pepto-Bismol. And he just had a really upset stomach and he was uncomfortable. And later that night, he just did not look well. And he never goes to the hospital. I don't even know if he ever went to the doctors the whole time we were together. And I said, well, I had a good friend who was a nurse at the local hospital. And I said, well, I'll check the ER and maybe you just need an IV. And he didn't want to do that. So I said, no, I'll just sleep through it. And I said, okay. He goes, but check on me. Cause he was moving around so much. He slept on the sofa in the living room because he didn't want to keep me awake. I had to get up early the next day for work. And I woke up early and I went to check on him and he just did not look good. And unfortunately, his skin was very ashy. And so I called 911 and paramedics came and they kept taking his vitals. And I didn't know that he was vomiting blood. And I didn't know that this was happening because I was sleeping and he didn't tell me. So they rushed him to the hospital and I thought, okay, well, I'll probably be in the ER for a while. So I'm just going to stop by Starbucks and get a coffee and a muffin, of course.
Because before it was like a Pepto-Bismol tummy ache.
Yeah.
Get you some of that pink stuff and you'll be good. Okay.
Right. Drink some water. And I got to the hospital and in the hospital, in the ER, everyone was scared. Everyone just looked shocked that he was even still alive. They had to rush him up to ICU and get blood in him. And, he told me, call his operations sergeant, let her know, and I'll probably be out a while. And so I went downstairs and I was trying to, call people and let them know what was going on with him. Called our kids. Actually, I sent a group text to all the kids. Hey, dad went to the hospital. I'm not quite sure what's wrong, but I'll just keep you posted. Okay, yeah, keep us posted. And my stepdaughter met me at the hospital. We walked upstairs and he was in the ICU. And both of us had never seen him like that, hooked up to machines. I mean, he was just never in the hospital ever. So it was pretty shocking. And immediately he just said, something's happening. Keep talking to me. So I kept talking to him and my stepdaughter stepped out. I think it was just a little too much for her to handle. And then he just coded. And the nursing staff, I mean, kind of like on TV, they just swarm and they jump on him and they're working on him. And I just scooted out and, my stepdaughter and I were just holding each other and we just couldn't believe what was happening. I mean, just overnight, we just couldn't believe it. And so then they brought him back. And so they had him connected to all these machines. And of course, tons of family came out to the hospital. This was right before COVID, of course, or not right before, but I guess 7 months before. And he came back, they brought him back. And after a week, they ran all these tests and they said that he had bad liver and his kidneys. He needed to be on dialysis for the rest of his life. And we said, okay, well, then you're on dialysis. We'll deal with that. So we knew we were just going to deal with whatever he needed. And then 2 weeks after that, I got a call from the doctor. It was the first day I was going back to work and he was still in the hospital. And they called me while I was walking into my office. And the doctor said, he's terminal. And I said, well, how long does he have? And he said, well, weeks, maybe, and so I had to go back to the hospital that morning and I had to tell my kids and I had to tell him. And he just took it like a champ and was just like, okay. And so we just started planning. We were in the middle of refinancing our house and the lender came out and, we signed the paperwork and I got all his passwords and we just made all of those arrangements. And I know, a lot of your guests, you guys talk about like what's better, just like immediately, or having this lengthy illness and you have this sort of bad quality of life with a person. And um, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. But I do know that the 5 weeks I had with him after he went into the hospital, we tried everything. We got him to the liver transplant center in LA at UCLA, and they were trying for 2 weeks to get him better. They were going to put him at the top of the list and get him a new liver, and he just didn't make it. And so I don't know what life would have been like after, what the quality of our marriage or relationship or life would have been. I don't think it would have been bad, because I was ready to quit my job and do anything to take care of him. And I had tons of family, and everyone would have stepped up, and, someone would have had Monday and someone would have had Tuesday, that kind of stuff. Like, we all knew we were just going to be this whole community around him to take care of him and get him better. And it just wasn't, in God's plan. So
if he would have gotten a liver transplant, would he have been okay or not okay? He was still done dialysis because his kidneys were also ruined.
Well, I learned that, of course, the liver is just the organ that you cannot fix, right? So you can have a kidney. I mean, you can live with one kidney or whatever. We would have figured it out. But had he been able to get the liver transplant, the staff at the hospital, the transplant center, insisted that they had worked on people in way worse condition than him, and that they've seen them up and walking and just almost completely recovered, 6 to 12 months after. So we had so much hope that he was going to do it, and that was going to be his story. And so him passing away just was not part of the plan. It just wasn't, until the afternoon that the staff took my stepkids and I aside, and they said, there's nothing more we can do. He's not going to make it. And I said, okay, well, what happens next? And they said, we could keep him alive on all the machines, but we don't really think that's a good quality of life. And I said, no, you're right. I saw him deteriorate. He was just such a big, buff dude. And I just saw him deteriorate to this very small man. And I just thought he really fought for us. And we at least owed him a peaceful, passing. And so my stepkids and I, my stepchildren, my stepdaughter Allie and my stepson Jake, we did not leave his hospital room. We lived there, and we only left to go eat and stuff, and so they were very much a part of every decision that was made. And we looked at each other and we knew we had to let him go. And his sister, who raised him when his mom passed away, she came that afternoon, and she was able to spend her last moments with him. And we let him go. And then more family, came out after that. But yeah, it was just, it just wasn't in the cards. And then it was, and then it just,
Did he have any symptoms, do you think, before that maybe he was downplaying? Or was it really just like out of the blue, like all of a sudden your kidneys don't work?
Of course, I always think, what could I have done? What looked odd? Why didn't I catch that? And he had to pee all the time. And I was like, oh my God, dude, you got to go get that checked. Like, you have to, that's not healthy. That's not good. We get in the car and 30 minutes later, you like have to stop and go pee. Like, that is not good. And actually sometimes he kind of, I thought maybe the last 6 months or so, he kind of lost his balance at times, not often, but it just wasn't like him. And things that alarmed me a little bit, I would bring up to him, especially his drinking habit, of course. But he would say, Rach, as soon as I retire, I'm gonna get a full exam and I'm gonna start fresh. So I really feel like he knew. I feel like he knew, because when I told him he was terminal, he just accepted it. He said, okay, you're gonna be okay. And it was just like, wow, he like he knew, and he was ready for it. Or maybe he thought he deserved it. I don't know. I don't know. There's just so many unanswered questions. So I would have done anything, and I tried everything to extend his life. I mean, I was on the phone with elected officials, and I have a little bit of influence.
I said you were trying to buy him a liver
Yes.
on Etsy,
Right.
trying to call the, President Obama to help you out.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I tried everything, and I think one of the comforting feelings post grieving, and when I look back at the last year or so, I am so confident in knowing that I did everything I possibly could to extend his life and keep him alive and keep him, there with us, until I couldn't. And I know I pretty much just left everything on the table. And it's just, he just left such a legacy of communities, community appreciation, and helping the fellow man, and really being there for people over and beyond just being a police officer. He was always accessible, and he was always working extra hours, and he would tell me of stories of pulling people over that didn't look like they needed to go to jail, but maybe he'd throw their keys, across the street or hide them. And then it's like, you got to walk home, like he was so reasonable and such a good cop. But then when he had to be tough and take bad people to jail, he did that too.
Did he ever deliver a baby in the back of somebody's car?
No.
Dang it. I feel like every police officer has to do that in order to earn some sort of stripe on their
No,
uniform.
he didn't do that. At least I don't know if he did.
I think he would have told you that.
Okay. So, Rachel, you have listened to our podcast, and so you're familiar with a lot of the stories.
Oh my gosh.
of
Jenny Taylor,
our guests.
stop it. Jenny
Right?
Taylor, I was like so impressed with that woman. And everything she said about how proud she and her husband were of serving their country, and just everything she does now after his passing, and of course being a mother, that's a whole nother of 7. It's crazy. But I know, you guys, I don't know how you do it, and she was just so impressive. And I mean, Melissa Ponder, that was another wild story. And so I hear all these stories, and I'm like, why would they want to interview me, and why do they want to hear my story? But I think that my story is just not special, which is all of our stories. There's nothing special about it. We met, we fell in love, we got married, we had a great life, and then he died. And now we're in this crazy, weird chapter that there's no rules, there's no defining. It's just crazy. And so there's nothing special about that, other than
it would have been a special story had he delivered a baby in the back of the car once.
Oh, what a jerk.
Because you know these stories, Rachel, and you don't think that your story is special, or that your story is a little different. Like you've mentioned before, that you move really fast through life things. What of some of our other guest stories is similar to your experience, and what is different?
This sounds like a job interview all of a sudden.
I feel like a lot of maybe the more recent guests, maybe the guests who have about the same timing as us, like a year, a little over a year, I mean, Anita, you're about what, 2 years now?
Yeah, so I think I'm just a little ahead of you.
Yeah. And I think that there's still a lot of just uneasiness with finding love again, or doing something big and massive, like maybe buying a cabin or something like that. I mean,
Just for instance.
Yeah. For instance, that. But I like the whole cabin story is kind of weird too, because he and I would vacation up here a lot over the years. We brought our kids up here. We'd come here, on our own trips. And while we were preparing for his retirement, he was was supposed to get this like last paycheck, whatever. And we were making decisions, and we thought we were going to get a cabin. We'll probably get a little quaint, nice little cabin just for us and our family. And that's what we were going to do once he retired, so that we could have an escape and a little vacation home. And we were so excited that we could even afford a second home. Right. And so he passed away on a Friday. The following Friday, I had this beautiful funeral that was so appropriate for a hero. And many of my friends who are elected officials and, many prominent people in LA County attended and appreciated and knew him as well. Tons of police personnel and sheriff personnel and all of our family and friends. And it was just beautiful. It ended up being a way I wanted him to be honored. And so the next day was his sister's birthday. And then the day after that was our wedding anniversary. So I knew the funeral had to happen before those 2 days, And so my kids and I and my grandkids, we all decided that we were going to get away for the anniversary. And we looked at beach cities, and, it was in August. And I thought, well, it's going to be too crowded and everyone's going to be partying. And I thought, well, let's just go to Lake Arrowhead because we love that place. And let's rent a place and we'll just go and be one with nature. And we'll just be together. So we did. And we spent a couple days here. While we were here, we saw an open house and we were kind of caravanning. And then we stopped at the open house. We all got out and we all looked at it. And then we all sort of had this this light bulb went off, and we're like, oh my gosh, we need to get a house up here. Like, this is what we need to do. And so at that moment, I was determined to have a cabin in Lake Arrowhead to spend the holidays with our kids, for our first Christmas without him. And then I just worked that whole week. I found it, made the offer, blah, blah, blah. And then I was in the house October 1st, like a month later, a little over a month later. And I think perhaps that was so impulsive, and close family and close friends probably didn't agree with that move. And, it's funny how people change in your relationship after. I don't even really talk to a lot of our close friends, and, family changes, including my own siblings, they change, friends change, and my relationships have evolved where I've gotten closer with some and distant with people I thought would have always been there for me through something like this, And I don't know if it's because they think of him when they're around me and they just can't handle it. But I think they thought, okay, Rachel, you're buying a cabin right after Ernie passed away. That's weird. But I just don't think they know where the motivation comes from. And they don't even ask. They just assume, perhaps. And so, it's just one of those kind of crazy, impulsive things that I hear all the experts on this show say, don't do anything impulsive.
The fancy lady is dying right now. Because
God,
she's like,
totally
3
dying.
years. You can't be buying a cabin now.
Oh gosh, I know.
But I bet you're so glad you have it now, especially during all this crazy
Yes.
COVID stuff. Eh?
Yes.
I'm jealous.
And it's so healing to be in the mountains.
I get up here as often as possible. It's usually every weekend. I have a pretty stressful job, and I come up and escape, and recover. It's just my therapy. It's just beautiful up here, and I'm so fortunate to have been able to have it, to have this escape from everything.
So I have a question for you about the cabin and about purchasing it so quickly. Are you prone to letting other people's opinions bother you? Or are you just like, I'm doing this and I don't care what you think? Because I'm somebody who does that. Like, I let people's opinions bother me. And I try and think about what they're thinking, even though I have no idea. But like, oh man, she must have just gotten a ton of life insurance money, so she can do that. Or, she's probably happy that he died because now she has a cabin in the woods. Things like that. Is that just crazy for me to have those thoughts?
Those are all thoughts I've had, and I'm sure they're thoughts other people have had. And I am not too influenced by others' opinions. And I think I've always been rebellious. I've always been the, go against the grain person. And so that's probably why some of my relationships have sort of, distanced, because perhaps people don't understand. But I I think early on in my grieving process, I realized that the only opinions that really mattered were my children and my stepchildren. And decisions I've made, they've all been pretty supportive of that. And I'm happy with that. I um, they know I'm a strong person. I mean, I obviously have a pretty decent paying job as well, and so um, I'm independent in a sense. But yes, he did take care of me. He did take care of us with his life insurance policy, and thank God
Yay!
for that, because his pension has actually taken more than a year to work itself out, because you know
Because the wheels
yeah,
of bureaucracy
yes,
runneth slow.
yes. And there happens to be a ex-wife that he had back in the day for a few years that is doing all that. So there's all these complicated things that you just never think about that you're going to have to deal with. And his income was a big part of our household income. So I those are things that are getting worked out as well. And so financially, I think that of course, gosh, fancy lady, what's her first name? I forgot her first name.
We
Joy.
don't even know. Just kidding.
Fancy Joy. So we start thinking of, okay, life is short, so how do I create my insurance policy to pass down to my children and my grandchildren, and how do I take care of them now? And there's so many things that I would love to share with other women, but it's so weird. Like, how do I put that on social media? Like, hey, by the way, here's some tips. If you ever become widow, follow these tips. If you ever
could do
become
it.
widowed, like
That's what we do. We just start a podcast. Yeah, I was gonna say, you're in a position with your job and also with your life experience in resiliency. Like, I know that maybe you are so accustomed to your own story that you're like, oh yeah, like, and I was homeless for a minute, and then I had some kids, and then I graduated high school, and it's like, but to people that have not been through that, they're like, how did you get through that? That's so amazing. So you have lived a life of resiliency, which I think is really inspiring, and I think maybe that article that just got printed up about you is that's a good gateway for you to kind of now start talking about those things, because people will look to you who has been through so many things. So it is weird being like, hey, I have these some advice for widows, here you go. And I think it mostly just will feel weird to you and maybe to some other people, but like, we don't care about that.
It's
right?
so funny because you're like, I have these skills that barely anybody is going to need, but I would like to share my knowledge with you.
But it's like, look how helpful they are. Look at the podcast. We were like, we're just two people in our basement talking, and now we have all these friends like that we didn't even have
But
before.
you've also created this network of people sharing with each other and connecting. And how do you connect with someone on such a level if you have not experienced such tragedy? Like, it is massive. And for anyone, of course, after to try to say something like, oh, well, when my dad died, or oh, when I lost my mom, or when I lost my brother, or when it's just like, that doesn't compare to my loss. So don't say those things. And there's just so much, like, what I would say and what I would share with people, and with of course with people in law enforcement who also, or in other stressful jobs, who drink a lot and who mask their experiences, or self-medicate with drugs or alcohol or whatever. It's just there's so much, like, reform, I think, that can happen, even within the police department that he was a part of, as far as demanding them, requiring them to have annual checkups. And, and kind of like, even if he had blood work done a year before, or 6 months before, they would have detected something massive, And so that wellness, wellness is not a priority to certain professions, these first responders, as much as it should be. And so I would love to perhaps encourage some sort of, movement like that to help others. There's just so much, but
I think that's so smart. I have a family member that's a firefighter, and he just is like, you have no idea what it's like to show up on a call. It's a suicide, and it's your friend. It's somebody that He goes, I have so many stories like that, or the amount of horrific things they see. And I love that idea. I didn't even think about your approach of maybe having something in place for those first responders that checks their health, because, man, that's stress. You're saving a life, or you're in the business of like life and death. And so, as we all know, stress and cortisol and all that stuff has an effect on our bodies. And alcoholism, or just drinking so that you can forget what you just saw, I don't love that this is a thing, but I love what you just said about maybe that's something that could be reformed. And you are in a position where you could do that. I think.
I do it probably, but
send us your list. Send us your list, and if we think it's terrible, we won't tell you, but you can still send it to us.
Okay.
No, really, I am actually interested to know what other people's advice would be, because I'm only in my own brain, and these are the things that I think are really important. And then other people say, oh, well, I would suggest doing this or this. And as we've talked about on the podcast, Mel's needs and my needs are very different, or our preferences are very different. So it is interesting to see what other people think would be the advice that they would give. So
yeah, because this is also in the category of preventative. Right. And so it's just like when Anita and I are like, get life insurance. And you're just like, hey, help prevent this death because there's high stress. So yeah, let us know how we can help. But I think that you are so cool and so proactive and so resilient and have great ideas that you could really, once you find that thing that you want to do and you find the first few steps, that it's going to help a lot of people.
And, and your spouse dying, yes, is massive, but there's other challenges that we'll face. Like after my husband died. So about a month before my husband died, we had 2 dogs and 2 cats. So a month before my husband died, we basically got our dogs sort of at the beginning of our marriage, and our cat. So like all of our animals were like really aged. So he had to put down 1 dog a month before he passed. And then it was left like the female, my dog's wife, and I. So we're 2 like widows, all weepy and lame. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't even handle my pain. And now I have your pain. My female dog was just like miserable. And I'm like, oh my God. So then I'd say about 6-7 months later, then I had to put her down because she was, her health was failing too. And so then I had my cat. Like one cat was rebelling and I had to give that cat away. And then I had my cat, my best friend cat, and she passed away. I had to put her down about, I don't know, a month or 2 before Ernie's death anniversary. And so like that whole year was just crazy. And so it's just like, I think now I'm like, you know what? Loss is going to happen. Loss happens and there's nothing we can do about it. And I think that I've been totally jaded through this process, unfortunately. But I also have an appreciation for, the good things, and what's crazy. And I don't even know if, I shared this, but, I also just found out that I had, cancer in my uterus, endometrial cancer.
What?
I know. Crazy.
You did not share that.
Dumb.
Hello, stop.
Dumb. I am recovering from a hysterectomy right now. Now, what's awesome is they got it all, so I don't require any, like chemo or radiation. But like, what? Why?
I can say the same thing. What?
Yeah.
Like, that is so dumb. And it's like, okay, so now because he didn't go to the doctors often, I was like, okay, well, I need to go get a checkup and I need to go check these things out and blah, blah, blah. And then it led to that. So, yeah, it's just been a wild year, and I've just had to just deal with it. But it's life, and I think that um, I still find happiness in a lot of things, and I feel like I allow happiness in my life. I have awesome friends who have just been incredible. You know, they've been there for me, and I try to be there for them. And so, even through COVID, has been crazy. You know, even with the sort of distance of people, we've still been able to maintain a good, solid, network of support. So, um, it's just life, you guys. You know, we're just gonna keep getting dished
So,
all this crap.
Rachel, I have a question for you about people's different timelines. So, Mel and I have discussed with each other, and even on the podcast, I think, about sometimes feeling like you're a sociopath because you're not feeling enough emotion, or
Right.
you feel like you're moving through grief quickly. And you mentioned this at the beginning, that you move so quickly. So, do you want to talk a little bit about feeling that way and having those feelings of not doing it right because your timeline, you're just like a go-getter and like, let's do this and be done with it kind of a thing? Well, maybe that was a bad way of saying it.
Well, no,
'Cause-
yeah, I know what you mean, and I think it's guilt. You know, it's guilt that I I don't cry anymore every day, like because there was like crying all day long every day for months, and then there was like okay, crying once a day, and then there was like, oh, I didn't cry yesterday. Wow, and still having the same memories. And then it's like, okay, I only cried once a week. And so the crying and grieving has subsided a little bit. And now when I think of Ernie and our memories together and different things, even from his last days or when we were dating, and I can get choked up, but I now remember it more of like, I'm just so blessed that I was able to experience that, and I'm so happy. Now I feel like I'm happy that I had those moments, not I'm sad I'm never going to have them again. Because for a long time, I thought, okay, well, I'm ready to die because I mean, what's the point of living without him? And the faster I die, the faster I'll be with him. So who cares about this life? Whatever. My kids will be okay, blah, blah, blah. But then I started going through just my own grieving. And I think it kind of started January 1st. Woke up January 1st. It was a new year. It was a new decade. 2020 was going to be awesome. Yeah. Psych. No. And it was just, I felt like, okay, I took my wedding ring off, and I think I was a little mad at him because of course, he died. And I was like, why did you leave me? But I thought, okay, I'm not married. I'm not married. And I thought, I need to start dating again because I'm a social person, and I want to feel appreciated, and I want to feel desired, and I want to find a partner. I want to find someone I can have fun with because I'm a tomboy and I like to play golf and I like to watch sports and have a cigar every once in a while. And so I just knew, and so I went to brunch with some girlfriends that morning, and we just had such an amazing discussion and talk, and I felt so good about taking on this new year and thinking, okay, I still love my husband, but he's never coming back. And I need to find happiness. And I know I want to, I'm a fun person and I want to date and I want to hang out and I want to go out, blah, blah, blah. So I asked friends, hey, set me up, set me up with guys. The caliber of the person.
You are so brave. You let them loose.
I know.
Well, I didn't want to do online dating. I was like, I refuse online dating. There's no way I'm going to do it. But I knew I knew enough people that knew enough people. Like I know tons of men, and I thought they're all dumb. There's no way. Like I was literally like, there's no way I'm going to find anyone that would match or even come close to being the type of man Ernie was, who appreciated a strong woman, and who was a family man, and just generous. And but I thought, okay, well, maybe not in my universe circle of people that I know, but let me expand and see who people know. And so it's kind of weird. I I took a flight in mid-January, and I went to Nashville to go visit one of my best friends, the friend that her parents took me in as a homeless kid. That friend, Priscilla. Went to go visit her.
Hi, Priscilla.
Wait, Priscilla Presley?
Yeah.
No, that's in Memphis, right?
So I went to go visit her, and I had just gotten the job for city manager the night before. So I did a little celebrating. So I probably got home a little too late, and I had a 6:15 a.m. flight the next morning. And I was like, running through the airport, and I was the last person on the flight. There was one seat available, and so I went and asked. It was in the middle of a man and a woman, and I said, "Hey, can I sit there?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." So I sat down, and I guess I had a cap that had a golf little thing, and as I'm sitting down, and I'm a little hungover, so I thought I'm just going to sleep on this whole flight. This dude says, "Do you play golf?" And he kind of shocked me. And I was like, "Yes." And he goes, "Oh, well, yeah, I see your hat." And okay. So he tried small talking a little bit, and I'm like, "No, I need to sleep on this flight. I am not going to be chit chatty with you." So I think he probably got the message, and I fell asleep. Woke up, started chatting again a little bit. As we were talking, he asked, what do I do for a living? And I told him, and he said, "Oh, what a great accomplishment," or something. And I credited Ernie, of course. I said, "Well, it's kind of bittersweet. I lost my husband last year, and he played a big role in my success and getting me to where I am. And I wish I could celebrate with him, but he's not here." And I started crying a little bit. And he said, I know what you're going through. I lost my wife too."
What?
And so I'm like, exactly. I was like, what?
Because when you were telling me that story, I was thinking to myself, as soon as you said that guy was like, "I need to get off this plane because I don't want to be having this conversation with this lady anymore because she is crying and there's nowhere to go."
Right. But you know what's crazy? So off topic, like I think that I played the widow card as much as possible, during a certain time. I was like, yeah, my husband just died, so leave me alone. Or my husband just died, like
my husband just died. Give me some extra fries.
Yeah, exactly. I felt like it just defined me where I was, and I was not afraid to say it, and I think sometimes I would shock people, like, "Oh God, oh, I'm sorry." Like, they don't know what to say. Like, what do you say when someone says that to you? It wasn't like I announced it to everyone though as I met them, but in conversation and stuff. So when he said he lost his wife too, and he understands, and so we started talking, and I asked him questions, and he had young children at the time when she passed, and it had been 14 years, and he'd never gotten married. And so then our flight was over, so we exchanged numbers, and he says, "No, call me." He ended up living like 10 minutes away from me, and so we exchanged numbers, and we talked a little bit for about 3 months, and then COVID happened, and then we were our only friends, and then we blossomed into a relationship. And so yeah, I think my pace, looking at it now, thinking like, yes, I still love Ernie. I will never not love him, and I will never not appreciate the marriage I had. I'm proud of the wife I was and the mother I am. But I have embraced moving forward and what this next chapter looks like. And I've found happiness, I've found happiness, and I'm just so, I think that even the friendship that I've established with this person has also helped me through my grieving too. I don't know. And he was with me when Ernie's first death anniversary happened, and we just acknowledged his wife's 15th death anniversary, about last Monday. I think it was last Monday.
We need to talk to him. He needs to come.
But it's so, and I do feel conflicted. Like perhaps I was moving too fast, but I honestly, that's that one side of me that is the doubtful side. But I'm so confident in my feelings and where I'm at now that I'm embracing it and just, moving forward. I don't know. I guess it just works, it's just working.
Do you want my psychological evaluation?
Yes,
Have you,
please.
Rachel?
Can't wait for it.
Okay. So I'm just listening to your whole life story, and I think that you have had to really stand on your own feet and get what you needed to get done for yourself. So I don't see you as somebody who is needing a partner because you feel like you need somebody's help to make you be a whole person. You've spent your whole life being whole, kind of despite everybody else. And so your looking or your accepting of a new relationship wasn't coming from a place of trying to help you create a whole person. It was coming from a place of, I am a strong, resilient person, and I am open to sharing my life with somebody else, but not something that's trying to build me up to make me okay, if that makes any sense.
Like it's not coming from a place where you're grasping for somebody to tell you that you're fine.
It's coming from a place of abundance and not from a place of want. So,
yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I've known you for like,
I love it.
I've known you for like 50 minutes, and so I feel like I can give you these diagnoses.
Yeah, and also with all the stuff that you've been through your entire life, you're accustomed to being resilient. Like, and I know I keep saying the same thing over and over and over, but it's true. It's like when that is such a life skill that a lot of people don't have, and it takes them until they have some big life explosion to start on that path to building their own resilience. You've had that since you were a kid. Like you've already been on that path. And so it makes sense to me that maybe what you're experiencing now is different than a lot of widows, because a lot of widows, it hasn't been their first trauma,
right?
You know? So, but the way that you tell it, you're very grounded and just kind of getting a feel for your personality. I think that you should embrace it and have fun and do your thing and trust your gut.
Plus, who sticks you on an airplane next to a widower who also likes golf? I mean, you can't deny that that's a little like...
And we've talked, and we've said that Bonnie is his wife's name. Bonnie and Ernie were our angels that day, and like they must have hashed it out in heaven, and they must have said, "Hey, we need them to be happy, and let's put them together randomly let's sit her on the only seat available on this flight," and we have such an appreciation for each other's marriages, families, children, and the legacy of our spouses that to me is what works, and I understand and he understands. And Ernie was an incredible person, and I everything I hear about Bonnie, she sounds awesome too. And so it's just like, but now we appreciate them together, and yeah, it's just wild. It's just a wild ride. I don't know. But I do want to inspire, other women who have lost their spouses, who think that they're doubtful or they feel guilty or something. But if they're open, it's okay. It's okay to be open and experience fun stuff, and don't feel guilty about experiencing the fun stuff. And I know for a while too, I thought, God, I wish he was here with me to experience this. Oh, he would have loved this. And I felt bad that he wasn't there experiencing it with me. And including, the cabin that I got because of him, but yet he can't be here, So that was a sort of, I felt so connected to him here, but then also at the same time, I feel like I wish he would have loved it here. And he, but he is here. And, I have things all over the place that remind me of him. And I just appreciate, we just appreciate him and his memory. And, it's weird. I think of too, like my in-laws, and I'm not as close to them as I was before, of course. A few I, choose not to be, but whatever. But, it's just like, I feel like for the longest time, I was so angry. Like, you didn't lose your spouse. The person that you lost was my person, and he would have consoled me. And the only person that could console me right now is gone. So don't even compare your loss to my loss. But now I feel that they'll never be able to replace their brother. They'll never be able to replace their father or, uncle or, nephew. But I'm able to find new love. And that's unfair in a way sometimes. So now I feel like it's opposite of what I used to feel. And now, now I'm
I
feeling
never thought of it that way.
yeah. And so I'm sad for that too. But at the end of the day, we've all lost such a great person.
Death is just such a ball of blah.
Yeah.
And you know what? And Rachel, you're in our Widow Wives Club, and I'm sure that there are some people that aren't quite sure who they can reach out to if they are feeling guilty. And now that you have been our guest, if anybody is interested in having those conversations, Rachel is in there. And so that we want to talk about everything in there. So yeah, there's always going to be somebody that can relate to you. I love that you shared your story, and I love that it's maybe not as typical. Guilt is a huge thing, and for a lot of different reasons.
There's one other person that I like. When I heard their story, I was just in awe because it kind of reminded me of my guy's story, because he, his wife battled breast cancer for 3 years, and he had small children. They were 7, 9, and 11 when their mother passed, and so 3 years before that, he was working, he was helping her through her treatments and stuff, and being, mom and dad in the home. And Trigan White, his story was like, oh my God, so honorable. Like, all of the sacrifice and the frustration and the expectation and the disappointment and, the relationship and the ups and downs, gosh, to have been able to live through that was just incredible. I don't know. I love our widow people that you've attracted.
They're so
to
great,
us.
right?
I know there's so many inspiring stories.
Yeah. And even though you think that your story is not amazing, I see what you're saying, because there is no fireworks, there was not a bazooka involved, there were no, you weren't attacked by a polar bear, or Ernie wasn't. But I think that most of our stories, like you were saying before, are just normal, but there's still lessons to be learned from every single person who has a story. So thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you for hearing it.
Hey, Rachel, one more question before we go.
Yes.
Favorite cheese, go.
Manchego.
Oh,
a Spanish.
That's a good one.
Delicious. Yeah, I do like manchego.
When we get together someday, all of us,
Yes.
we're going to have all the cheeses. It's
Oh
going
my
to be
gosh.
so great.
It's going to be just a cheese fest.
And then we're going to need some Pepto-Bismol.
Yeah.
This will be a lot. Okay, and then not. Actually, I was thinking Miralax. We might need Miralax. Make sure you guys check out the Widow Wives Club. You've heard us say it at least 4 times now. And answer all the questions. And we would love for you to become one of our patrons. You can find that on patreon.com/WWDN. I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
I'm Rachel.
And we're just 2 young widows and a rock star who is in a cabin in the forest living her best life. And we're trying to figure out
Widow, we do now. This is my favorite thing to discuss with you.
Tell me, what is it?
One of my favorite things. I do enjoy tacos and cheese and dogs. This is about how you cannot pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a phone plan, especially when you're a widow, your person is dead, you might have kids, you might need another option, and you just want your phone to work, you want unlimited texting and service, and you want it to be like $25 a month.
It blows my mind that they have plans that start at $15 a month. That is so cheap. And the cool thing is it uses other 5G networks, and so you don't have to pay extra for that, and you still get great service.
Yep, Anita and I have traveled all over, and I have used my phone. So I highly recommend it. And my mom's even on it. When my dad died, we put his phone down to the cheapest plan, which is $15 a month. And I think my mom's on the $20 a month plan, and it's so worth it. It's so much cheaper than what we were all paying before. So I highly recommend it. If you're on a budget or not, who cares? Ryan Reynolds is in charge of the company, and they send you free stickers with Ryan Reynolds temporary tattoos. It's kind of the best. So if somebody wants to sign up, what can they do, Anita?
Go to trymintmobile.com/WWDN. Seriously, you guys. Such a great idea. Save yourself some money.
And if you're worried about losing data or having any changes with your phone, not going to happen. They walk you through it. Everything's fine. It's the easiest process of all time. Again, that's
trymintmobile.com/WWDN.